Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. This week's presentation, part three of Healing the Divine Masculine, based on my personal. This is a series based on my personal life journey. If you're here for the first time, I have experienced a lot and learned a lot in 67 years. I wanted to share what I've learned with younger men so that they may benefit. We all have a story to tell, and we can rewrite our story. We must all find our own path. And I hope you enjoy this journey with me. So today's topic is, what is the divine masculine? What's the definition of divine masculine? And I just wanted to explore some words and ideas, some thoughts. I don't have all the answers, but let's see where it goes. Here's the list of the topics. We'll start with the parts. I'm a guy who focuses on words. So we're going to start with the parts or the words. We'll combine the parts. Then we're going to tweak it a little. And then we'll start tearing it apart again. We'll look at two different parts. And then we'll start looking at some more aspects of this idea known as the divine masculine. There's more to him. He's gone through the fire. He has a framework for life. I'll go over and show you an example of my personal spiritual framework. Some ideas of the masculine in relationship, the rubber band effect, what it means to hold space, and my image that I came up with of the idea of holding space, the masculine holding space for the feminine, and then the idea and the necessity for grounding ourselves as the male or the masculine. So let's start with the parts. Two words: divine masculine. Divine means relating to a god or godlike or being extremely good. It can also be used in a spiritual context to describe a connection to a higher power. And the word masculine means possessing qualities or behaviors typically associated with men, fairly obvious, often including traits like strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, and dominance, which are considered characteristics of the male gender. Okay, nothing new really there. So if we combine the parts, we get something like: being a divine masculine means to be a man who possesses qualities, behaviors, and traits such as strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, and dominance, emanating from a connection with a higher power. But there is something missing in this. It's not explicitly stated, and that is the heart. So let's tweak this a little bit. Quote, being a divine masculine means to be a man who possesses qualities, behaviors, and traits such as strength, courage, independence, leadership, assertiveness, and dominance, emanating from a connection with a higher power. This connection to a higher power guides the divine masculine to lead with his heart, to possess qualities, behaviors, and traits such as compassion, mercy, empathy, and love. This is just something that I came up with when I was playing with these words. So there's two parts of this. Okay, if we break it apart and look at it a little differently, there's the traits that are listed, like courage, leadership, loyalty, honesty, truth, empathy, compassion, and patience. And then there are the ways of life: self-care, emotional stability, having a purpose in life, and then having a spiritual aspect of life, believing in a higher power, whatever you want to call that, the one infinite creator, the divine spirit, or God, anything like that. But there is more to him. He is whole. He is comfortable alone. He values his time, treating it like royalty. He knows what he wants and never settles for less. He knows who he is. He has won the only fight that matters, the one with himself. These are very important concepts. Not only does he know who he is, but he also knows what he's done. He understands his past, his successes and failures, and he's come to grips with those. That's part of winning the only fight that matters, the one with himself. He has gone through the fire. He knows his triggers. He understands his love languages. He understands his attachments. If you're not familiar with those concepts, love languages, there's a very good book. There's 5 love languages. Attachment theory is something that's making the rounds these days. I would highly recommend looking into that. He is also intimate with his dark side. He is very close with his anger, his rage, the idea that he could take a life. These have to be brought into us consciously and understood and managed. He still has his bad boy side. This is very important. We're still the bad boy. We can still be a bad boy at times. And he has learned how to manage himself from the inside. This is probably the one, if not the most important statements in this whole idea of the divine masculine. He has learned how to manage himself from the inside. Very, very important. And that goes back to the idea I talk about a lot, and that is conscious living. So here's a little framework that I picked up along the ways with a bunch of ideas that you can review. It's just a different way of looking at things, but it helps to understand this, to really, really look at our life as the masculine from many different angles. So he values personal development. He is spiritual with a reverence for history and tradition. For example, I love old churches, ancient sites, sacred sites. He knows there is something greater than us. Once again, whether you want to call it the one infinite creator, divine spirit, great spirit, God, name it what you want. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Or as some Native Americans would say, Great Spirit, you who are known by 1,000 names, and you who are the unnameable one. Thank you for bringing us together, allowing us to sing the song of life. He treats others with kindness and integrity. He has a healthy respect for money. He values experiences over things. He values monogamy and intimacy. And yes, I am projecting myself in all this. He knows sexual alchemy is the way to oneness. This is where ideas such as Tantra come in. He has a purpose, a career. He's motivated every day, and he practices a concept of service to others. And the flip side of that is called service to self. So as you go through life, you see people who are service to self. Many others are service to others. Sometimes we're somewhere in the middle. Most of us are. He has hobbies. He values open communication and the love languages. He keeps himself physically fit and attractive. This includes things like his clothes, his house, his car, everything about him. So this was something I did a few years ago. It's the background on my PC that I'm working off of right now, and I call it my personal spiritual framework. So there's a quote at the top that I always love. It's be careful of giving advice. Wise people do not need it. Fools do not heed it anyway. At the bottom, you just see a list of keywords um, that are good to embody, to make a part of yourself. Everything, they're in alphabetical order. So everything from compassion to wisdom, truth and honor, humility, patience, love, loyalty. The other boxes, the 5 hindrances of self-mastery, comes from a guy named Shihen Yi, who's a Shaolin master. He has a wonderful YouTube channel. And this was from a TED Talk that he did, those 5 hindrances to self-mastery. The 4 agreements come from a book by the same title by Don Miguel Ruiz. I have really been able to embody these. My favorite one is don't take anything personally, but I go to these a lot. The archetypes, this is from a book called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. Very important. to understand, I believe, these aspects of ourselves because we can. I'm actually going to do a whole video on archetypes because we can draw from this energy when we need it. The law of one, which is a concept that came across my path about 5 years ago. This is where I discovered the idea of service to others. Um, these are practices, and you can find some more information about this. Aaron Abke does a whole series on this. And then the last box is just basically some simple affirmations to be happy, be healthy, be strong, be content, be the best me, be in each moment, and when in doubt, just breathe and do what feels good, okay? And then learn to walk the walk. So these are just things that have crossed my path that have made an impression on me over the years, especially over the last 5 years. Um, the Four Agreements goes back a little farther than that, but the other ones all came across my path over the last 5 years. So I hope you enjoyed this. The Masculine in Relationship. There's actually a very good book by that title, which I'm going to talk about in another video. So I took a couple ideas from that, and then I added some of my own ideas. He will not raise his voice, lose his temper, make threats, or raise a hand. I think this is just so important. And I'm going to get into why in a little bit. He will listen, respond, not react, create safety, create structure, and learn to tune into her. Um, those three in the middle actually come from the book called Masculine in Relationship by G.S. Youngblood. It's a very good book. It's going to be in a future video, like I said. Um, the rubber band effect. I read in some places that the masculine energy desires freedom and the feminine energy desires connection. And I have felt this in myself multiple times in my life. When I look back on what has happened in my life, I can see where this has come into play. And I'm actually feeling it right now. After being alone here for about 3 years, I can feel my feminine side desiring some connection. It's very interesting to observe this. But I call this the rubber band effect because, we as men, we'll go back and forth on this. And we have to combine this. When I combine this with some avoidant attachment issues, and it creates a real challenge for the man in relationship because the avoidant attachment makes us very afraid of the connection. And because in some parts, it actually stems from what I talked about before, which is abandonment issues. And that's why, so we're afraid to make that connection because we're afraid deep down inside our little inner child thinks that someone's going to abandon us. And yes, I did spell attachment wrong. But really, the trick is to learn to balance the two. And again, that means we have to be very conscious of these things. And for me personally, I am, like I'm sure many men, are a work in progress on this one, trying to balance these. So the concept of holding space, I've heard this a lot over the years. What is it? Well, I went out on the internet where you can find basically anything. And from Psychology Today comes this definition. Holding space is about creating a relational container that helps your partner move strong emotions through her. And they did phrase this in regards to the masculine and the feminine, such as this as coming from the masculine or the man. You cannot do this for her, but you can be with her. Decentering your opinions, experience, advice, and emotions. Now, this was written by a PhD. Decentering is a funny word. But anyways, we'll push on here. Decentering your opinions, experience, advice, and emotions. Trust the healing power of just being there. Please trust that. She wrote this. This is a direct quote. You are not enough. Excuse me, you are enough. You don't need to fix her, change her, advise her, or explain anything to her. How many times have we heard that, we say, what's the problem? Because we immediately want to try to solve the problem. You don't need to fix her, change her, advise her, or explain anything to her. Just be there with her. Listen to her, follow her lead. This gets into being in tune with her. Okay, to attune. It starts with an A T T U N E, attune to her. Ask her, how can I support you right now? If she doesn't know, just keep breathing and staying present. If you want to hold space, you need to be grounded. Let go of any fear loaded stories you may be carrying. For example, something is wrong with her. This is never going to stop. This is unfair, or she's overreacting. You got to drop all that. We have to learn to drop all that and get grounded and stay in the present moment. Stay calm, just breathe. That's what this is trying to say. And I resonated with this very much, which is why I put it here. So I'm going to give you my image of holding space. After pondering this concept for probably years, I came up with my own image of what it means to hold space. And it starts with a concept from Taoism that the emotions are related to the element of water. And so, what we want to always do is let the water flow. If we picture the emotions flowing like a river, and we, as the masculine, are to be the container, then we are basically the banks of the river. Okay, so here's how we let it flow. She is the river flowing. He is the banks of the river. The banks of the river are made up of earth, trees, and rocks. Trees, especially, it's very important to realize that strong trees need deep roots, and it's the roots that hold the banks of the river together. That's why we have to be grounded. So a calm river is flowing, right? Changes direction gradually. It's led by the banks. The banks just help guide it, right? We are the banks of the river. But sometimes rough waters happen. When a calm flowing river hits rocks, it can turn into what we commonly call rapids. And I've actually gone whitewater rafting and got dumped in class 4 rapids and couldn't get out for a while. It's pretty scary. But this is a time when the banks of the river must be very strong to hold the force of the flow. That's us. The trees, the rocks, and the earth must be deeply grounded. Just be there with her. Listen to her. Follow her lead. Just let the water flow. Let the emotions flow. That's what this is trying to say. Okay, don't try to, you notice the rocks that you see in the picture, they're not trying to match the intensity of the flowing water. In fact, quite the opposite. They're just standing there and just observing and letting it flow. After hitting the rocks, a river flowing through the rocks might come to a waterfall. This is where you start to ask, how can I support you right now? And if she doesn't know, just keep breathing and staying present because she may be hitting the waterfall. But we have to let go of those fear loaded stories like she's overreacting. Got to let that go. Yeah. Got to let go of those opinions. Got to let go of those deep rooted traumas that might come up. And whatever you do, don't raise your voice. Don't make threats. Don't try to change her. When we try to change someone, we're actually practicing cognitive dissonance. If I say, I love you, but I want you to change, cognitive dissonance is holding two competing thoughts at the same time. And that's what we're doing when we do that. It's very interesting to think about. Once the river falls over the edge or passes all the rocks, calm returns. The river has run its course. The banks of the river stayed strong, and the water just continues to flow. That's what we have to do. So picture yourself as the banks of the river. And when in doubt, just breathe. Grounding. So, in order to be the container, the banks of the river, we as men have to really ground ourselves in our bodies. We have to work on calming our nervous system. How do we do that? Well, for me, it's I have to exercise regularly. I do an hour of qigong every morning, tune into my body. At the end, I consciously ground myself in my body and on this earth in gratitude. I do that very explicitly. Um, we reduce the screen time and just be. Avoid or reduce stimulants like coffee and, God forbid, energy drinks. Learn to be more attached to our body than our thoughts. So if we learn to just be, then we just feel our body, feel the clothes on our body, feel the bottom of my feet touching the floor as they are right now. Feel the pants on my legs, the sweater on my arms, the glasses on my nose, the bridge of my nose. This is something that must become a daily part of conscious living, to become more attached to our body than our thoughts. It takes a lot of practice, but we can do it. So these were the topics that I covered. Grounding was the last one. Okay. Hope you enjoyed that. Starting with the parts as parts, and then moving through some different concepts that I've come across in my travels, my reading material, my experiences, etc. In summary, all of this is from what I've learned, what I've experienced, mistakes I have made, successes I have had, and a few visions that have come to me, such as the vision of the river and the banks. It's very important to not just focus on the mistakes we've made, but also give equal time at least to the successes that we have had. This was, in totality, an exploration of some of my insights, added to some ideas from others, for whom I am very grateful. You will add your own insights and even dismiss some of mine, which is fine, because you need to create your own path, your own framework, your own style, as you are unique in this universe. And this is the end of this week's presentation. I hope you have enjoyed it. I know it was a lot, but just wanted to share with you this journey. And the next one will be in about a week. I think I'm going to do one on the Dark Night of the Soul. And meanwhile, enjoy each and every day. Thank you.